Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This is a US politics special where I'm going to just talk you through some, I'm going to say this as if this is like perfectly normal these days. I'm just going to talk you through some outrageous examples of corruption at the heart of the American government. You know, who knew? Kel surprise. But it's pretty incredible what's going on at the moment. We're going to start with the aeroplane that the Qataris have offered to the United States. I've already talked about this previously. Just going to give you a little bit more context and then take you through to a whole bunch of other things, including a movement of a massive amount of cash from a Chinese firm that owns TikTok into Trump meme coins, like a massive amount of cash. And just the levels of corruption are just off the scale at the moment. So let's talk you through it. Okay, we're going to start with the jet, as mentioned. Converting the $400 million Qatari jet into a new Air Force One for Trump would require installing multiple top secret systems. It would cost over $1 billion and take years to complete, according to 3 aviation experts who spoke with NBC News. Now, I didn't talk about this the other day, but actually, you know, Trump keeps talking about, oh, this is a gift, you know. So he gives some old golfer, I think died in 1982 or something. He keeps giving the example of, you know, you take the putt or whatever. If someone you're playing against gives you a free kind of putt, then you take it. You know, if you're given a free gift here, you take it. Okay, but do you? Emoluments clause, law, constitution. But do you take it? Do you take it? No, you don't. No, you don't take this gift. It's just not the same. You're not in a golf match. You are the president of the United States of America. But the practicalities of it are actually completely. They run completely contrary to the idea that taking the gift would at all be the right thing to do. I mean, not talking about morally right thing to do, but the idea that, hey, it's a free gift. You know, $400 million, beautiful looking plane. Yeah, but actually, if you're going to use that for Air Force One, you have to take it apart. Literally, I think they'd have to take the whole plane apart to make sure that it's not, you know, Qatar are arguably not traditionally seen as the biggest allies of the US. They've been funding Hamas and all sorts of stuff going on. So, you know, you don't know what's inside that plane. So you are going to have to take it apart and make sure it is swept top to bottom, front to back. And then you're going to put it back together again, and then you're going to turn it into an Air Force One plane. So it has to have all sorts of security arrangements on board and mechanisms and comms systems and all of this kind of stuff. And then, you know, 2 to 3 years later, it's ready to be an Air Force One plane. This is the complaint that Trump has as well. We're waiting for these other planes to be made into Air Force One. We've got this old 40-year-old Air Force One plane that's doing a perfectly fine job, by the way, and there's no need to replace it. But he keeps talking about, oh, you park it next to these other planes, and these other planes in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, they look even more swish. And like, why can't we have a nice swish plane like that? So it's just appealing to his kind of, I mean, you look at the White House, right, and it's covered in gold. That's Trump's idea of what everything should look like. And so he looks at the Air Force One plane and thinks, well, it could be well more swanky than that. But of course, you know, it comes with this extra cost. And that's something that also will take 2 to 3 years. Well, actually, just wait for those other planes to come in then, because that's when they'll be ready. And actually, what's going to happen in 2 to 3 years' time? You're going to stop being president. Then that plane goes onto your presidential library and you are going to effectively be given it. So then it'll have to be decommissioned from being an Air Force One plane to being your plane. And that's going to come at a cost, and it will take even longer. And it's just this ridiculous. I mean, to you and I, well, I presume you and I, certainly to myself, this is obviously just a way of getting Donald Trump a plane that's got nothing to do with Air Force One in the US, because it won't be usable until basically he finishes his term. Anyway, this is how CNN reads it, which is pretty much exactly the same. I mean, it's 5.5 minutes long, this, but you get the point. New details on that free plane from Qatar. Turns out it may cost $750 million or more to retrofit it for the president. Yeah.
He will keep, he says, for his library after leaving office. We learned today that it could take 2 years and $750 million or more to bring the plane up to Air Force One standards. Now, that's according to a person familiar with the matter. $750 million or more to take it apart, check for surveillance devices, then refit it with the defenses, communications gear, and all the rest a commander-in-chief needs. In short, all the gear already on the 747 he flew to Saudi Arabia for a day of pomp and ceremony, fighter escort included, and which he'll fly in just a few hours to Qatar for more of the same. His current 747, though, aging, already has all of that, and so will the new 747 Boeing is building, which is years behind schedule, as the president has pointed out, but which the company now says it could deliver in the next 2 years. In other words, about the same delivery time as the one the president says he'd be stupid not to take.
Absolutely. So that's CNN. This is a Republican senator. This is her view.
He seems to intend to use it for Air Force One. Do you have security concerns?
Well, they better sweep that plane from front to back.
He seems to.
So laughed at the idea straight away, and that's a Republican senator. But of course, you've got Fox News.
I think we would be crazy not to accept the plane, and I think people have been watching way too many spy movies. And if you think the United States government and our Defense Department is not going to strip the plane, everybody is talking about technology. Could they be spying on us? Of course, we have foreign assets that want to spy on us, but they're not going to take the plane as is. They'll break it apart. They'll put the necessarily military assets on there, the technology there.
Flip it to the other side.
That's exactly right. Maybe.
And he's discussing this as if that's completely free and it won't take a long time. Yeah, of course. Don't be so stupid. Of course they're going to strip it apart. Yeah, that's the problem. That's well, the problem is the emoluments clause, and you can't accept gifts like this, and what's a quid pro quo. But the practicalities of the argument or the argument concerning the practicalities of doing this is what you are laying out yourself.
Add an extra couch just in case Kill Me wants to be a hobo. But I think it's a gift. I think the president.
Think it's okay?
I think it's totally okay. We have been gifting
There you go.
The world for decades. It feels good to finally get something from someone else. We're always the ones giving charity away.
A president needs to be able to use an ottoman.
Right.
And if you could.
I think
it is all hilarious, right? And of course, if Joe Biden had been in the same position, they would have been apoplectic with rage about that, no doubt. And you know, this is Trump talking to the Emir of Qatar.
I just want to thank you for everything, and maybe in particular our friendship. It's been a very loyal, great, beautiful friendship. And the job you've done is second to none. You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto.
And he's just, you know, you just put some like gaudy bling in front of Trump and he thinks you're amazing. Like, he's so facile. Just honestly, it's staggering. And then you're his best mate because you've got some marble and some gold. So he's done an amazing job. You've done is second to none. What, as a ruler, in funding Hamas? Look, Qatar is hosting Hamas leaders and has funded the terrorist group with over $2 billion. Is that what you mean? That job that he's done is brilliant.
And just a great job you've done, and what a beautiful place. And we appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time. And that was some greeting. We appreciate it very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to have a lot of fun. Okay, brilliant. Now, just to remind you, Obama turned down a gifted book to comply with ethics rules. Trump ordered his DOJ to say that him accepting a jet that he reportedly wants to keep for his personal use is fine. And there's the evidence of that. I was listening to some of the Pod Save America people who used to be in the Obama administration, and they said when they went to, did they even mention Qatar or Saudi Arabia, someone like that, one of the places they're at today, and it is like, we go there and then they come around with suitcases full of like gold and jewelry and stuff, like put it on the beds or something like this, and then the State Department will be around straight away afterwards saying, nope, we'll have that, thank you very much. And then they'll work out whether any of it could be kept, given to charity, done whatever. But essentially, you know, it was very tightly monitored. Now they're just giving Trump a $400 million jet, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have it. And that's fine. Just insane. And, you know, let's ask Grok, the AI model for Twitter, about Qatar then. Qatar's alleged involvement in the September the 11th, 2001 attacks centers on claims that it provided a safe haven and support for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM, a key al-Qaeda operative and the principal architect of the attacks. Between 1993 and 1996, KSM resided in Qatar, where he worked as a project engineer for blah, 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 blah. In 1996, the FBI attempted to apprehend KSM in Qatar. He fled, reportedly tipped off by Qatari officials, allowing him to continue planning the attacks from Afghanistan and Pakistan. Former US counterterrorism official Richard A. Clark stated that Qatar served as a sanctuary for terrorist leaders, a pattern that included KSM's escape. Additionally, blah, 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 blah. However, blah, 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 blah. Critics argued, so a bit of to and back and forth there. But, you know, Qatar are not the paragon of virtue when it comes to international politics and when it comes to the United States. And so to see Trump fawning over these leaders just because he's been given gifts and seen a bit of marble and a bit of bling is pretty horrid in my opinion. And you're getting all sorts of memes now. This one saying Trump is deporting students for protest in Gaza, yet he's accepting a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar, a regime that's funneled over $1.8 billion to Hamas, hypocrisy at 30,000 feet. And then, you know, all the talk about supporting 9/11 as well. And it just seems a bitter pill to swallow, especially when he's saying, you know, children are going to have to get used to having fewer dolls and fewer pencils, but I'm going to have a $400 million jet, thank you very much. And then you get the usual supporters of Trump, like Ann Coulter's been a little bit interesting more recently. But here, she's like, I can't wait for the press to find out about France's so-called gift of the Statue of Liberty accepted in 1886 by then President Grover Cleveland. Two things, Ann Coulter. One, Grover Cleveland didn't get to take the Statue of Liberty back home with him when he finished his tenure as the President of the United States. Two, Congress had to vote on it. Congress had to vote on whether that was a gift that could be accepted. So, by all means, draw the same analogy, but I don't see Congress voting on accepting or not that $400 million jet, which it will end up costing the government more. Okay, we're going to go back to 2023, and I showed you this video, and it's fascinating because this then gives you a bit of a preface to where we're going to go next. So Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE gave Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, $3.1 billion, and just so happened to be Trump's first stop in his second term. So, where are the first places that Trump is going to visit? The three places that have given Jared Kushner an absolute ton of money. And this is what Steve Ratner said. I've been in this business 40 years and I've never seen someone get $2 billion. 2/3 of the money from a single investor. And it's worth just watching this 2.5 minutes. It really is. So let's go for it.
Jared Kushner did work in the White House. He worked very hard. It's becoming a little less clear what he actually worked hard at, because after he left the White House, he went out and raised $3.1 billion, that's billion with a B, for a private equity fund. And as you pointed out, he's not a private equity guy. He's a real estate guy. So where did this money come from? Some of it we know from filing, some of it we know from press reports. What we know for a fact is he raised the $3.1 billion. What we also know for a fact is that only about $30 million of it actually came from investors in the United States. All the rest of it is foreign money. And of that foreign money, $2 billion of it came from the Saudis. And not only did it come from the Saudis, but the Public Investment Fund, which is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, from which this money came, the board of it voted against giving the money to Jared, and they were overruled by MBS, who said, give him the $2 billion.
Mohammed bin Salman, who we're going to come to next, the Saudi head dude.
I've been in this business 40 years. I have never seen someone get $2 billion out of $3 billion, get 2/3 of their money from a single investor. Usually a single investor might be a few percent of the fund, might be 5%, occasionally 10%. Never seen this. Another 200 million we believe came from Qatar. Another 200 million we believe came from the UAE. And then the 625 million that came from foreign investors that we don't even know who they are. So what was Jared Kushner doing in the White House? And by the way, as a fun fact, on January 6th, the famous January 6th, Jared Kushner was in the Middle East.
Steve, I heard from a prominent Middle East investor a couple weeks ago that there's not much out there on how Jared has actually been able to execute his funding. He's got all this money, but like you and Jonathan said, his background is not in private equity, and I've seen only one news report of a small European investment. He's sitting on all this money. Are the Saudis investing with him just to hedge their bets politically in case Trump comes back into office?
At least those are your words, not mine, but it's certainly a reasonable speculation. Yeah, we haven't seen him do a lot with this money. He has hired some people, I do know that. I think you mentioned to me during the break that you'd seen one investment that I hadn't even seen. I've seen nothing else about what he's actually done with the money. It is normal to invest this money over a period of several years, so I don't think we can draw a firm conclusion yet. But again, we're going back to a guy who's a real estate guy, and frankly not a particularly good one at that, who suddenly got $3 billion trying to do private equity deals, competing against people who've been in the business a long time. And I wouldn't, if I were the Saudis, count on making a lot of money from this anytime soon.
So therefore, why have they given that money to Trump's son-in-law? Then we hear, as I just mentioned, that Trump is going out to visit these countries. But what's interesting, if you're wondering about the grift, and a lot of these people have given money to Donald Trump, by the way, as well. We've got these people going out to Saudi Arabia. So it's not just Elon Musk that went to meet Mohammed bin Salman and the government in Saudi Arabia. The CEOs of BlackRock, IBM, Amazon, Boeing, Google, Palantir, Halliburton, and more attended with Donald Trump. Donald Trump froze the enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So I'm sure they're all thrilled they can bribe the Saudis now to do business with them. If this happened under Biden, MAGA would be screeching for years. Elon Musk, Stephen Schwartzman, Larry Fink, Jenny Johnson, Arvind Krishna, Jane Fraser, Michael O'Grady, Kelly Uthberg, etc., 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 Ben Horowitz, Sam Altman, so OpenAI there, all these different firms, Uber, Mayor of Miami, CEO of Coca-Cola, Northrop Grumman, Epic Games, Enfield Investment Partners, Kirkland Ellis, managing the family office, ex-Uber and founder of Cloud Kitchens, vice chairman of BDT and MSD, Schlumberger, Halliburton, Baker Hughes, Palantir, Nvidia, OpenAI, Amazon, Google, Boeing, Northern Trust, Citicorp, IBM, Franklin Templeton Investments, BlackRock, Blackstone, Tesla, and SpaceX. And yes, on the one hand, this is about making business connections between countries, and so you can argue that Trump is acting as an ambassador for US commerce. But on the other hand, it seems that you pay Trump a bunch of money and it gives you access to doing stuff like this. There is so much grifting going on in the American government. It blows my mind. And just remember when Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, said back in 2018 here, so let's go back 7 years, that, hey, Donald Trump, being Saudi Arabia's bitch is not America first. Now, of course, she's like, hey, all is cool, right? Pretty incredible. I think she was talking, she made a statement about how, if I remember, I can't remember exactly what she's just said, but it was bigging up how Donald Trump's doing X, Y, and Z to do with Saudi Arabia. And of course, you always get these, it's a sort of meme or this trope on Twitter where it's like, this you, question mark, this you, when someone says something that's like goes completely against what they have said like 2, 3, 5 years before. You dig out the tweet from 5 years before and say, this you, is it? Okay, right. So you're getting all these sorts of memes. So we're going from Qatar now to Saudi Arabia more formally. I want to know why this guy, Mohammed bin Salman, who tortured and dismembered this American journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, gave this guy $2 billion, that's Jared Kushner, $2 billion. And that's what we were just kind of hearing about. And then we have Donald Trump sort of waxing lyrical up on stage to the Saudis at a Saudi investment firm, a forum.
Great partners in the world, but we have none stronger and nobody like the gentleman that's right before me. He's your greatest representative.
Mohammed bin Salman.
And if I didn't like him, I'd get out of here so fast. You know that, don't you? He knows me well. I do. I like him a lot. I like him too much. That's why we give so much, you know? Too much. I like you too much. Great guy. They lifted sanctions on...
I want to be sick. Okay, so as this source says, disgusting to watch the American president heap praise on MBS, who approved the bone-saw killing of Jamal Khashoggi. This is another low point in American history. Quote, I like him a lot. I like him too much. That's why we give so much. This is obscene. And actually, you can go and it's very interesting if you want to go and look into the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. There's a really good BBC article that goes through the entirety of it, but this is back from 2018 originally, updated in 2021. And essentially, it seems highly probable, I would say, looking through all of this, that... Well, Saudi Arabia were responsible for this, but did it come right from the top? The guy that Trump is heaping praise on. After the murder was confirmed by the Saudis, then US President Donald Trump described it as the worst cover-up in history. He's changed his tune, hasn't he? However, he defended US ties to the kingdom, a key trading partner. There's your key. It's all about the money. The response was widely derided by senators in Congress who pointed the finger at Prince Mohammed. According to US media reports, the CIA, whose director heard the consular audio recordings, concluded with, quote, medium to high confidence that Prince Mohammed ordered Khashoggi's killing. So essentially, it's pretty much probable that that MBS was responsible for the murder of an American journalist that Donald Trump at the time says was the biggest cover-up, and he's heaping just sickening praise on Mohammed bin Salman.
We are rocking. The United States is the hottest country, with the exception of your country, I have to say, right? I'm not going to take that on. No, Mohammed, I'm not going to take that on. Wouldn't that be a terrible thing if I made that full statement? But I will not do it. You're hotter. At least as long as I'm up here, you're hotter. We are rocking.
It's again sickening. Holy moly, says this source. In an absolutely shocking and pathetic moment, a pandering and groveling Donald Trump tells MBS that Saudi Arabia is doing hotter right now than the United States. MBS literally dismembered a US journalist, and Trump is on his knees for profit. This is gross. And yeah, I find it pretty problematical. Of course, Saudi Arabia got all sorts of issues with human rights violations, right? As Trump celebrates all things Saudi, says David Frum, a former Republican. Was he not a speechwriter for Bush? Someone not to forget about. She is held at an unknown prison with no contact with the outside world for social media posts about her right to dress as she pleases. So that's Manahel al-Otaibi. He's talking about a Saudi women's rights activist who's been jailed for 11 years. And no one knows where she is, type thing. Yeah, so it's all about being wonderful to Saudi Arabia and very publicly saying how amazing they are. The country is, the leader is, and I don't know. I understand I understand diplomacy, but that goes beyond diplomacy. So you can be really diplomatic in your language, hence the term diplomatic, but that is just fawning. That is sickening fawning, that's completely unnecessary. I can understand biting your tongue and saying kind of the right thing, but I don't know, you could argue that this is the right thing. This is the rightest thing because it's going to get Trump, more likely get him what he wants. But I don't know that it then starts moving towards the end of the spectrum where you're just getting into bed with Saudi Arabia, and then you are becoming complicit in the very things that you were previously standing up against, like the murder of these journalists and human rights abuses and whatnot. You become so fawning that is implicit condoning of that kind of behaviour. And then we talk about the Syrian leaders. So the new Syrian leader, I mean, this is a fascinating and complex scenario whereby you've got a former Al-Qaeda guy who then became basically leader of one of the rebel groups, non-Al-Qaeda rebel groups in Syria, and then Bashar al-Assad was toppled and flew off to Moscow, and you had this guy becoming the leader of Syria and having to kind of eschew his former self and be in charge of a really disparate collective in terms of the people and communities and rebel fighting groups in Syria to lead Syria into a new future. Meanwhile, Syria is being sanctioned to the hilt by the United States. And there have been a lot of claims that actually the continued sanctioning of Syria is actually pushing them back towards Russia, because Russia's like, hey, we'll help you out. The US is still sanctioning you to a hill, crippling you from being able to start to stand up on your own 2 feet again. So you've got the Syrian leaders being out there with Trump. He's reportedly proposed, though, and publicly this, and Trump will know this, so he publicly proposed a Ukraine-style minerals deal to Trump in order to ease sanctions. We want sanctions eased. I mean, really, sanctions should be eased anyway. Like, that's a direction of travel that we should be going in with regard to Syria, putting things in place, making sure that Syria is abiding by X, Y, and Z and doing the right things, and then you ease sanctions. We don't need to have some extractive deal to make that happen. We don't need to have a promise of building a Trump Tower in Damascus, but that's where we are. So he's appealed to Trump to have some kind of Ukraine-style minerals deal with the US, and he's also proposed building a Trump Tower in Damascus, according to the Times. That's Ahmed al-Sharaa. So, as this source says, breaking, Trump is lifting sanctions on Syria just after its new leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa, a former Al-Qaeda fighter linked to the deaths and injuries of dozens of American troops, incidentally, proposed building a Trump Tower in the country. A known terrorist offers Trump a tower, and suddenly the sanctions disappear. This isn't diplomacy, it's corruption in plain sight. I would be somewhat more realist in this situation. Like, al-Sharaa, you've got to trust that he has shaken off his terrorist past. You got to hope that that's the case, and so I wouldn't concentrate too much on, Trump reducing sanctions on Syria and thinking you shouldn't reduce sanctions on Syria because of this guy's past. But I do have an issue with reducing sanctions on Syria because Syria have bribed you, and they've done that. But the problem isn't so much the bribe. The problem is that al-Sharaa knows how susceptible Trump is to bribery. That's the issue for me, is like the form of Trump means that everyone is just, and I've seen like statements now of just saying, I've seen senators talk about this, saying, look, Trump is just, it's open season. on Trump. We've got to a point in history where the American president can just be bought. He can just be bought for anything. And that's kind of what this whole video it really is about. That's a conclusion of this video. But then you know, just to remain on al-Sharaa, this is Trump speaking about him like we've just heard him speak about the Qataris, like we've just heard him speak about Mohammed bin Salman. And he's going to do it again. And he's got this strange, and there's another quote, I'm not going to show it to you, where he's talking about how attractive people are. Trump's got this really weird thing at the moment where he's talking about, not that I have a problem with that per se, but it's just a bit weird for the president to keep talking about how attractive these men are. But anyway.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Great. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know?
How did you find the Syrian president? Great. Young, attractive guy. Great guy.
Strong past. Very strong past.
Strong past. Very strong past. Now, here's where you start having some issues, because his strong past that he's talking about is the past where he was killing American soldiers as part of Al-Qaeda. Like, that is his part. That's his past, right? And I've just been talking about, like, we need to let his past go because it's problematic, and actually look to the future and where he's going. Whereas Trump's deferring back to his past and how strong that was. Whoa. So then you're thinking, well, do you know this guy? Do you know anything about the people to whom you refer? I honestly don't know. It doesn't seem like it.
He's got a real shot at pulling it together. I spoke with
He's got a real shot at pulling it together. I don't disagree.
President Erdogan, who I'm very friendly with, he feels he's got a shot at doing a good job.
Erdogan says he feels like he's got a good shot. By the way, this motorcade in Qatar, I think that is, arrives in Qatar. Those are painted up Cybertrucks. I think they're Cybertrucks, which is because Elon Musk is part of this as well. It's just like, you must sit down like months before this in Qatar and go, right, we know the Americans are coming. We're going to have Elon Musk, going to have all these big wig American CEOs, and we're going to have Donald Trump. So marble, gold, Cybertrucks, just it's all about priming them. And so Elon Musk just touches down, sees those Cybertrucks that are painted up as emergency cars, and he's like, these guys are amazing. And of course, you're just manipulating these people to be more favourable so you can get a good deal with them. Yeah.
It's a torn up country.
Do you think Syria will join the Abraham Accords?
Yeah, but I think they have to get themselves straightened out. I told him, I hope you're going to join when it's straightened out. He said yes.
I think he's saying, is Syria going to join you? Yes, he's going to join us, or something like that. So, as Thomas van Linger here says, Trump calls Syria's al-Sharaa a real leader, saying he led a charge and he's pretty amazing. Trump said meeting with the Syrian president was, quote, great, saying he is young, attractive guy, tough guy, fighter. Once upon a time, a young Syrian man decided to leave home and join Al-Qaeda in Iraq. 20 years later, the American president shakes his hand and says he's amazing and hot. I don't know how to interpret these things. Sometimes it's just, my brain just breaks. Anyway, Trump family's net worth has increased by $2.9 billion thanks to crypto investments, a new report says. So aside from $400 million yachts that are eventually going to find their way to Trump's pocket, and aside from all sorts of other grifting, and aside from that Jared Kushner, $2-3 billion worth of random donations from people from the Middle East, and aside from this and that, just on crypto, Trump's family's net worth has now increased $2.9 billion. That is insane. And someone was saying today, actually, that, the amount of money he's made off crypto, which is, again, I would say illegal and breaking the conflict of interest and all sorts of issues. Someone was saying that he could buy a whole bunch of those planes just himself. Didn't need to accept a gift. You can just buy one. rather than accept that gift, say, no, I'll give you 400 million for that because I just made that yesterday on crypto. Scams. Speaking of which, this is Chris Murphy, who, he's my outside bet for US presidential nominee. Like in put his hat in the race for the Democratic nominee for president in 2020, whenever. Okay, he says here, we're going to listen to it. I know Trump's crypto scams can seem hard to understand, so I went to the Senate floor to break down the most outrageous one. So this is just one of the scams. A foreign government is investing $2 billion in Trump's coin to get favorable treatment from the administration. A wild corruption. Here's how it works.
For the UAE, the price is somewhere north of $2 billion. Last week, Eric Trump and World Liberty Financial co-founder Zach Witkoff spoke at a conference in Dubai.
That's Stephen Witkoff's son.
On crypto, called Token 2049. As an aside here, it's just so fantastic and bone-chilling how transparent these guys are in their use of public positions to enrich themselves. I'm going to tell the story of Trump's stablecoin and the corruption with the Emiratis. But let's just pause for a second and consider the fact that the Trump family could have partnered with anybody in the world on their new crypto venture, World Liberty Financial. But of all the people in the world to partner with on this new crypto venture, they chose the son of Trump's Middle East envoy. Trump's Middle East envoy, the guy who's making all the decisions on U.S. policy in the Middle East, just to make it crystal clear to the Gulf countries that when they deal with World Liberty Financial, Trump's crypto venture, that they are dealing directly with the people responsible for making U.S. policy in the Middle East. It's just stunning. Literally, the sons of the president and the sons of the Middle East envoy running a crypto venture and then going directly into the Middle East in order to find their first investment. And guess what? Miracle, they found it. MGX, an investment firm backed by the Emirati government at this conference, announced that they had looked at all the crypto companies in the world that they could partner with to invest $2 billion in the crypto exchange Binance, and they selected, wait for it, drum roll, the company run by the sons of the President of the United States and the U.S. Middle East envoy. $2 billion. Now, World Liberty's role in this transaction is not that complicated. It's kind of similar to a bank. MGX, this Emirati firm, deposits $2 billion with the firm and in return receives the stablecoin to be used on these crypto exchanges. The firm holds on to these dollars, invests them, and keeps the profits for themselves. So the Trump-Witkoff company just gets basically a gift of capital. And if they just use that $2 billion to invest in treasury bonds, it would profit around $85 million a year from these investments alone. And the money goes directly to Trump, just directly to Trump. It's literally not complicated. Emiratis, World Liberty Financial, Donald Trump. This isn't 1990s Louisiana. Nobody's hiding it. On World Liberty's website, they say an entity affiliated with Donald J. Trump owns 60% of the equity in the company. And because of this deal, Trump and Witkoff can further capitalize because Trump's stablecoin just became the fifth most valuable stablecoin in the world because of the Emirati investment.
And there you go. I don't need to say much more to that. That is obvious, in my opinion, corrupt activity. Robert Reich says, Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. His self-dealing makes Warren G. Harding's Warren G. Harding's look like a child shoplifting candy. Melly Derigo here says, Trump's contest to see who can bribe him the most through his meme coin is being dominated by foreign owners. There's a reason why Trump fired the ethics watchdog overseeing the executive branch and the team investigating crypto fraud. I mean, put all these things together, right? These are bribes, and this is corruption. And as I've talked to you before about top Trump crypto buyers vying for dinner seats are likely foreign data shows. So, he's going to give the top however many people, top 220 crypto wallets are going to have dinner with the president. Then he was offering the top 25 a trip around the White House until that was shown to be here on track for Trump's VIP tour. I think they've pulled that back because that was too dodgy. But when they look at where all this money is coming from, these ones in orange are likely foreign wallets. The blues are likely US wallets. In other words, all of the big ones are likely foreign wallets. And then these other big ones here, unknown locations. Absolutely incredible stuff. And in fact, here we have, again, is Anderson Cooper talking about it. It's quite a long one here, but 764,000, mostly small investors, have lost money on the coin. But by contrast, 58 accounts, and that's where we go back to this image there, 58 accounts have racked up a combined $1 billion in profits. Anderson Cooper did an excellent job of explaining Donald Trump's crypto scam.
We have new reporting on the president's crypto business, starting with one company that's investing in it by its own public admission to influence the administration. Freight Technologies is a cross-border shipping firm. Last week, the company said it would issue up to $20 million in debt. The money raised, according to Freight Logistics, would be used to buy Trump meme coins. Now, you might wonder, why would a company borrow real money to buy meme coins? This is from their press release. Quote, "We believe that the addition of the official Trump tokens are an excellent way to diversify our crypto treasury and also an effective way to advocate for fair, balanced, and free trade between Mexico and the U.S."
I reported on that one in my last video on this topic.
Now, an effective way to advocate, the company says. It's not clear exactly what they mean by advocating, but buying those meme coins and announcing it, they perhaps get the president's attention and also, it appears, send some money the president's way. Because according to the coin's official website, a Trump organization affiliated company called CIC Digital will, quote, receive trading revenue derived from trading activities, meaning a fee anytime the coin is bought or sold. Now, when asked recently, Mr. Trump denied he's even tried to find out if he's making any money from cryptocurrency.
What do you say to those who argue that when they hear that, they worry you're profiting from the presidency?
I'm not profiting from anything. All I'm doing is, I started this long before the election. I want crypto. I think crypto is important because if we don't do it, China's going to. Mm-hmm. And it's new. Mm-hmm. It's very popular. Mm-hmm. It's very hot.
You're not profiting off of the cryptocurrency?
I haven't even looked.
Well, if true, it would be strikingly out of character for a man who in 1990 cashed a 13-cent check that the now long-gone Spy magazine sent him and some other notably wealthy people. Only two recipients cashed their checks, by the way, a Saudi arms dealer and Donald J. Trump. Now, in any case, whether he's tracking his meme coin profits or not, only very few investors have seen any profits from it at all. Yesterday, according to CNBC, citing fresh data from a crypto industry analyst, they reported that 764,000, mostly small investors, have lost money on the coin. By contrast, their report found just 58 accounts have racked up a combined $1.1 billion in profits, all in just a few months since the president launched the coin the day before taking office, which in itself was unprecedented. And by the way, back then, the same as now, he professed ignorance about his new line of work.
And so on and so forth. And, he professes ignorance, and he may be ignorant, and someone could be doing that on his behalf, but that is in his name. That is functionally the same as far as I am concerned. But he also said, I was doing this long before. No, that was a day before you were inaugurated. I believe you started that meme coin. Absolutely outrageous. Then we hear this. So this one comes out today.
According to a new report in the New York Times, there's a new connection to the president's cryptocurrency plans. Here's the headline: Tiny company with China ties announces big purchase of Trump cryptocurrency. It's a fascinating story. The Times reports that, quote, the firm, which produces content for TikTok, recorded no revenue last year, but it announced this week that a mysterious stock sale would allow it to invest heavily in the Trump meme coin. According to a new report.
So a Chinese company owned by the same people that own TikTok, and remember, TikTok is being looked at by Trump, and he might ban it, and it might force it into American ownership for its activities in the US. So those people, and also remember, in the lead up to the election, he met with what were they called? The Club of someone. It was an investment group. And was given a whole bunch of money by someone who has, I think, 15% ownership of TikTok. And then that's when he changed his mind on TikTok. And it was so, like, is the staggering levels of corruption are there for all to see. And now TikTok owned company gives potentially $300 million to Trump coin. I mean, just wow. And of course, that transaction will put a whole load of money directly in Trump's pocket, even though he might claim he doesn't know anything about it. It literally is one of his companies. Just unbelievable. And there's all sorts of examples of this kind of grift and corruption and whatnot. Again, Melanie Dorigo here saying a 25-year-old Doge bro, so one of the people who was, thrown into these government departments and told to make all these savings and sack people and do all that kind of stuff and get hold of people's data. 25-year-old Doge bro at the CFPB, so that's a Consumer Financial Protection Board, held $715,000 in stocks that ethics lawyers told him he wasn't allowed to own while working there. And then Doge fired those ethics lawyers. You're not allowed to have that. That's against ethics regulation. Oh, I've been fired for saying that. Oh dear. This is corruption. Always call it out. And that's in ProPublica, who do really good investigative journalism. Doge, who helped gut the CFPB, was warned about potential conflicts of interest. And I think I've got something off on the CFPB somewhere. I might have got it in a wrong order. No. Anyway, it might be in another tab group. Now, talking about Doge, Elon Musk's $250 million investment in Trump is paying off. So, I mean, however much you think it is, some saying $291 million is what he paid to get Trump elected in terms of generating funds for the Trump campaign. All his regulatory, civil rights and labor cases are melting away. Corruption on steroids. NBC News reports Elon Musk's regulatory troubles have begun to melt away in Trump's second term. Let's listen to this.
In the past few months, Trump's Justice Department has dropped a case against Musk's rocket company SpaceX, and his Labor Department has canceled a planned civil rights review of his automaker, Tesla. Another regulatory matter against SpaceX has entered settlement talks with the National Labor Relations Board. And in more than 40 other federal agency matters, regulators have taken no public action on the investigations for several months, raising questions about whether those cases may have become dormant, according to an NBC News review of regulatory matters involving Musk's company. Being in the orbit of Donald Trump, having forked over $250 million to get him elected, having gone into the government with a chainsaw at his direction and slashed and decimated agencies, all seems to have a back-end benefit for one Elon Musk.
The pay-to-play aspect of Washington, D.C. has sort of been with us for a while.
But
I think
we draining the swamp? Wasn't that the whole point?
Yeah,
Wasn't that
exactly,
the
exactly. He sold himself on fixing that problem, not making it worse. If you can get close enough to Trump, you have a blank check. You can do what you want. The rules don't apply to you.
I remember writing an article in 2016 when he promised to drain the swamp then, and said he's not draining the swamp, he's drowning in it, he's bathing in it. And I say that even more so now. Trump's FTC is planning to lift restrictions, so these are regulatory bodies, on 2 oil CEOs who allegedly colluded with foreign governments to jack up gas prices, says again Robert Reich. This comes after the CEOs, their family members and businesses gave big donations to Trump and the Republican National Committee. The rule of law is for sale under Trump. So the big takeaway from this video is Trump is for sale. And yet, in a shocking moment of insanity, Caroline Leavitt, the White House press spokesperson, just defended Trump's decision to dismantle, the Consumer Product Safety Commission. That is the agency that, among other things, keeps kids alive from dangerous toys. Are they all evil or just inept?
Caroline, yesterday the administration appears to have started dismantling the Consumer Product Safety Commission. This is the federal agency, an independent one that does recalls and is responsible for product safety. Does the administration not believe that it's important, to keep toys and cribs? I mean, you're a young mom, off of the product of the market.
It's a federal agency within which branch? It's the executive branch. Who's the head of the executive branch? The President of the United States.
Created by Congress.
He has the right to fire people within the executive branch. It's pretty.
That's not what she asked. She asked, is it right that should happen? You're a mum. You've got kids who are going to be having toys. Do you think it's right to stop protection of those consumers, i.e. your children who are consuming those toys? You think it's right that they can get away with having toys that could end up killing them, for example? No, she doesn't answer that question. She answers a different question, says who's in charge of that? It's the executive branch, therefore it's the president, so therefore he can do it. I didn't ask whether he could do it. We're asking whether, it's this difference that really annoys me, and I've said this a number of times to you before. There's a difference between having the right to do something and it being right to do something. She asked, is it right to do this? And she went, they have the right to do it. No, we weren't asking that. We were having a moral question, not who has the ability, who has the kind of legal right to do that. Okay. Right, we're going to kind of end on this, which is, I could spend hours on this alone. So they're trying to put this bill through Congress, which is the one big beautiful bill, the tax cut for the rich bill, let's call it that. The tax cut for the rich bill is going to raise the debt limit by $4 trillion, which is why they're trying to do all the Doge cutting, etc., etc. But it's also going to potentially cause a lot of people to lose their medical coverage.
Well, it's very simple. It's to expose this bill for what it is, a bill that will throw 13.7 million Americans off their health care coverage in order to help pay for tax cuts for billionaires. That's not me saying it. That's not any Democrat saying it. That is the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office that just recently, in the last 24 hours, confirmed those exact figures. Never before in American history, not even during the Great Depression, have we had an event or legislation that caused more than 10 million Americans to lose their health coverage. So this is truly historic, and for all the wrong reasons.
So.
Okay, and we can go and look into exactly, how people are going to be losing their insurance. I don't want to get too much into long weeds of that. Here's Representative Brendan Boyle.
The amendment in front of us only impacts a little more than 3,000 Americans. It does not impact, and I did the math, and again, at 3 o'clock in the morning, it can be dangerous to do the math, but I just verified it. 99.999% of the American people will still see their tax cuts extended if this amendment by Mr. Gomez became law. It is only the top 0.001% of Americans that would simply see not confiscatory rates, not 70% rates or 80 or 90% marginal rates like you saw in the Eisenhower years, simply a reversion from 37% back to 39.6, which is actually the rate it has been for most of the last 30 years. So this amendment's pretty straightforward. It only impacts billionaires. it is a great opportunity for the other side to prove us wrong, to prove me wrong when I say this is one big, beautiful bill for billionaires. Prove me wrong, vote for this amendment, and we can actually have a bipartisan victory.
So this amendment, so for this big, tax cut for the rich bill, there are these amendments that were attempted to be appended to it by particularly Democrats here. Republicans just voted down an amendment to their budget that would have given tax relief to 99.999% of Americans, everyone except billionaires. They're fighting to protect a tiny number of billionaires, all while their budget rips healthcare away from almost 14 million people. And then you've got AOC here. I'm not going to play this whole video, so we'll go on. But Republicans are saying that these cuts will be reinvested into Medicaid. So they're saying that, we're going to make these savings, but if you are going to reinvest those savings on Medicaid cuts that you're going to have, then actually the bill won't show any changes. But how come there's $4 trillion added to the debt? If that were true, she says, the budget would stay the same, but that's not what's happening. Why? Because down the hall, they're trying to finance tax breaks for billionaires. And that's what's going on here. Chris Murphy again. Good morning. Republicans are trying to push through a bill that would throw 13 million people off their insurance, all for a tax cut for the rich. That's a combined population of West Virginia, Hawaii, New Hampshire, Maine, Montana, Rhode Island, both Dakotas, Alaska, Vermont, and Wyoming. Just for a bit of context there. Now, Congressman Greg Landsman says, we've reviewed the bill. We now know the details on how they plan to cut your healthcare to pay for your tax cuts for the uber wealthy. 7 ways they're cutting healthcare. Shall I run through these super quick? I'll try and be really quick. 1, requires low-income Americans to pay to visit the doctor. Every time they visit the doctor, they pay money. 2, adds paperwork and red tape to keep the people from getting healthcare and to keep people off their healthcare. 3, cuts subsidies that millions rely on for affordable healthcare. It's repealing the Affordable Care Act by another name. 4, shifts healthcare costs to the states. But, it's not so simple as that. Then it bans states from using a provider tax to try to cover the gap in lost coverage. States won't be able to cover the gap and people will lose their healthcare. 5, eliminates retroactive Medicaid coverage for nursing homes and emergency room services. They're eliminating the safety net for people when they need the healthcare the most. 6, cuts funding for Planned Parenthood to eliminate basic healthcare like mammograms, birth control, STD testing, etc. 7, reduces the minimum number of nurses at nursing homes. So they don't have to do this. They can pay for tax relief for Americans who need it by making the uber wealthy pay their taxes. The matter's simple. Small changes to taxes for super wealthy will allow them to strengthen healthcare, not to cut it. This is a life and death fight. People would die without their healthcare. We have to win this fight. So that's how the Democrats are seeing it. You got Representative Tom Suozzi here in a short excerpt. Exposes a small print in the Republicans' tax break for the wealthy. It breaks every single promise Trump made about no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, and no tax on Social Security.
Okay, on tips. The president has said your tips will be 100% yours. Does this tax bill continue the payroll tax on people's tips?
Yes, it does, Mr.
Overtime. The president said your overtime will be tax-free. Does this bill continue the payroll tax on overtime?
It does not exempt overtime from the payroll tax.
The president has said he's going to remove taxes on Social Security. Does this bill remove taxes on Social Security benefits?
The legislation provides an increased exemption amount.
But does it remove taxes on Social Security benefits as promised by the president?
Does not change Social.
The president and the Republicans. Okay.
In other words, the president made 3 promises to be elected, and then they've introduced this bill that does not do what the president said he would do. And yeah, there you go. And as well, they're literally trying to sneak a clause in the 2025 budget reconciliation bill that prevents the regulation of AI for 10 years. Oh, I wonder who's going to be pleased about that. I wonder who's going to be pleased about that. Who's big on AI and where are they at the moment? Just, I need a little reminder. Oh, that's it. Elon Musk and Sam Altman and they're all like hanging out with your big man in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Anyway, This bill the Republicans are trying to get through, what's it do? It prevents the regulation of AI for 10 years. Why isn't everyone sounding the alarm about this? Subsection C states that no state or political subdivision may enforce any law or regulation regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this act. Wow. It's just let AI go for it, and you can't do anything about it. Like, you may be a big fan of AI and think it's going to solve a lot of problems going forward. Yeah, absolutely. But it's also, it could cause a lot of problems. A lot of people are very, very nervous about the power of AI and what it might end up doing. And if you don't allow it to be regulated at all, then that's insanely dangerous. It's insanely dangerous. Again, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This bill allows gas companies to pay $1 million in order for their project to bypass the traditional permitting process to be simply deemed in the public interest. This bill also allows natural gas pipeline projects to pay a fee of $10 million to cut the line and also bypass the normal permitting process. In other words, just like with Trump, if you pay money, you can get around doing what you're supposed to do. You can get around the law if you just pay a bit of money. Oh, I'm just going to murder this person. Yeah, as long as you pay $1 million, it's fine. You can murder them. Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to build a pipeline right across here. Do I need a permit for it? No, not if you pay us $1 million or $10 million, depending on which pipeline it is. Yeah, okay. Oh, by the way, I've pipelined right across that nursing home and killed a bunch of old people. That's all right. You paid $10 million. It's fine. You're fine. It's fine. It's fine. Money. It's all right. It's just money. Who cares about lives and people and the environment and health and welfare? Pipeline, oil pipeline. That's what we want. Gas pipeline. Whack it through that old person's home. See ya. Bye. And there you go. Right. Just last couple of things on money here. Just a reminder of who the bad guys are here. Remember, it's not Saudi Arabia. No, it's not Qatar. No, these guys are amazing. Just that nobody's hotter than Saudi Arabia. Hotter. And I don't mean heat-wise. I mean, like, they're hot. Who else is it? It's probably not Russia. Certainly not China. No, I know they say China, but it's not really China. It's who are the bad guys?
This means American patients were effectively subsidizing socialist healthcare systems in Germany.
Oh,
in all parts of the European Union. They were the toughest of all. They were nasty. Right. And I see that with trade too. European Union is in many ways nastier than China. Okay.
So Europe are the bad guys, not China. Just nasty Europeans. And then finally on trade. Earlier today, Trump claimed that he used trade in order to get India and Pakistan to stop their war. I reported this briefly the other day. India just contradicted him, saying there was no, quote, no mention of trade in talks during Operation Sindoor, and trade wasn't discussed. Trump just makes crap up on the fly. Somebody's lying there. Either Pakistan are lying, India's lying. No, what was this? This is India. Either India are lying or Trump is lying. And my money is on Trump lying, because he did it like 31,000 times in his first tenure. So there you go. Just staggering. It's all staggering. Blows my mind. So much more to say, but that's enough for me today. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Let me know what you think, and add any other elements of outright corruption that are taking place in the thread below. Toodle pips.